some time talking about vaccines and whether or not they can be dangerous. We've discussed that before from time to time. But there's a new movie out and it's making very, very serious allegations of a cover-up by medical authorities in the United States. The movie is called Vaxxed, Vaxxed. We'll get to it shortly. But first of all, ever since some people began to suggest, say, back in the 90s, that some vaccines might be dangerous or could cause a bad reaction, we've had a definite fall in the number of parents who take the advice of their doctor. A lot of them now ignore that advice and they don't give their children any vaccines because they've read about or they've heard about or they've watched a documentary about vaccines and autism and vaccines and other reactions, and they believe what they hear. And it's very common now, and our, if you like, resident opinion line medic, Nick Flynn, Dr. Nick, reckons it's at the stage where it's become a serious problem. Nick, good morning.
Good morning, PJ.
We've talked about this before. There is a trend now, ever since certain elements of the community, medical community, started to question vaccines. We have a lot of people now who are not vaccinating their children, and you're seeing it as a problem.
Certainly, PJ. We have seen the rates of uptake of vaccinations vary over the years, and as you rightly pointed out there, Andrew Wakefield in 1998 did raise a hypothesis that was a link between the MMR vaccine and possibly autism. That was a report that got enormous media attention and resulted in a decreased uptake in the MMR vaccine. But subsequently, there have been numerous studies throughout the world, Sweden, the UK, the United States, Denmark, and there's been no such association found. And we are thankfully seeing the rates of MMR uptake increase again.
Am I right in saying, Nick, because I was doing some reading on this in the last couple of days, am I right in saying that nobody has ever been able to reproduce Dr. Wakefield's original findings?
That's correct, and his original research, the methods he used, and the motivations behind it have been discredited. Like in the Cork Kerry region at the moment, PJ, we have an overall uptake of 92-93%, which isn't bad, but unfortunately there are some areas in Cork and Kerry where it's as low as 85%, and that really just doesn't provide enough immunity in the community. So this herd immunity concept to protect the vulnerable.
Explain that. That's a picture you tweeted, for example, this morning to @opinion. Explain herd immunity. It sounds like something to do with cattle. Explain.
Yeah, I suppose it's probably better to call it community immunity, and it refers to a situation where you've got enough immunity in the population that there are enough people actually immune to a condition that when there's somebody with the condition or with the disease in the community, it doesn't spread from person to person. Probably best explained, PJ, by thinking about an example. So you think of Patrick Street on a busy Saturday morning, and you've got thousands of people coming forward and backwards. An alien arrives into Patrick Street there with a new disease we've never had before, so nobody's immune. It'll spread quickly throughout Patrick Street. People go home, they'll go to work, they'll go to school, spread disease at home, work in school, and spread throughout the community. And eventually vulnerable patients, so the pregnant patients, sick patients, patients with cancer, the young, will get that disease and they'll have even more complications. But they take the other example, maybe, PJ, where an alien arrives on Patrick Street on that busy Saturday morning with polio. We've got good community immunity to polio, so most people are immune. Very few people on Patrick Street will get infected. And if it does get infected, if they go home, people at home or work or school will be immune, it won't spread. So it doesn't spread to the community. And the vulnerable patients who haven't had the vaccine, maybe because they're young, or haven't had the vaccine because they're pregnant, or maybe because their immunity has decreased because they're on chemotherapy for cancer, those patients will be protected by the overall community immunity because the illness isn't spreading from person to person as quickly.
We had quite a number of cases, I think, of mumps a couple of years ago, particularly in winter time. Do you blame that, for example, on non-vaccination?
Absolutely. I mean, if you take 2015, we had 2,000 cases of mumps in Cork and Kerry. I mean, we were seeing teenagers and young adults coming in with swollen faces and swollen necks from the swollen glands you get with mumps. And mumps is normally a self-limiting illness without complications, but in up to 10% of cases in young men, it can lead to infertility. So you can get inflammation around the testicles, which can cause infertility. So, and that again is a vaccine preventable illness. And we've seen the same with measles. Like measles, we had this year in Cork and Kerry, we've had over 30 cases of measles, and 28 of those cases, the patients were vaccinated, you know.
And how much of all this is down to taking notice, people taking notice of the likes of what Andrew Wakefield was saying? I mean, one of your outlets is the global travel vaccinations business there, Nick. You know, I mean, are you confident as a person for whom vaccinations is part of what you do every day? Are you confident that the vaccinations you're putting into babies' arms are safe?
I'm 100% confident of that, PJ. And if you look at, we're not saying, nobody who is given vaccination is saying that there aren't side effects from vaccinations. There are rare side effects from vaccinations. However, they're not autism, they're not inflammatory bowel disease. They are things like high temperatures, there are things that unfortunately, very rarely, you might get a seizure related to a vaccination, but after the seizure is over, there's no long-term effects from it. But so nobody's saying they're absolutely safe, but what we are saying is that it's far safer than having these very dangerous diseases spreading in the community. And I'm a practicing GP in Cork for 20 years. I've never seen a case of polio or tetanus. I rarely come across measles. Occasionally you get small outbreaks of mumps. I've never seen a case of rubella. And that's down to the effectiveness and the safety of vaccines in the community. I mean, there's a safe, effective way of preventing illness in children and in people who are travelling. And if you look at the measles outbreak that we've had this year, I mean, look at the international, I suppose, outcry about infections like Zika virus, Ebola and SARS. And meanwhile, we have a vaccine-preventable illness at home, which we haven't eradicated because of poor uptake numbers. And we are potentially going to export our measles to our neighbours in the UK, our neighbours in Europe, because we haven't got enough uptake at home. So I think something we really need to reflect on. And as I said, vaccines are safe and they do prevent infection.
Okay. All right, Nick, good to talk to you. As always, thank you. That's Dr. Nick Flynn from Global Travel Vaccinations, as well as the Union Key Medical Centre. 1850 715 996. Back in the 90s, some people began to suggest that there were dangers. One of them was Dr. Andrew Wakefield. I will be talking to him after 10 o'clock. It's to do with a movie that is just out called Vaxxed. And I'll also let you know what's in that after the news. 1850 715 996. Your text is 5, or if it's not, it's 083 396 96 96, and your email is opinion@96fm.ie. What we did was we pre-recorded a debate between Dr. Andrew Wakefield and another expert based at Oxford University, David Robert Grimes, about the movie and the content and the work that Dr. Wakefield did back in the 90s. I'll bring you that after. Here is some audio from a trailer to this movie, Vaxxed.
You and I don't know each other very well. You have a son with autism, and I have great shame now.
There's a whistleblower from the CDC who's going to come out and say that the CDC had committed fraud on the MMR study and that they knew that vaccines were actually causing autism.
The CDC had known all along there was this MMR autism risk.
Oh my God, I cannot believe we did what we did. But we did.
Omission of crucial data, destruction of documents, misleading the Congress, grievous harm to innocent children.
Everything I've been telling my patients for the last 10 years has been based on a lie.
That's an extract from the trailer, the audio of the video trailer to Vaxxed. The trailer runs to about 4 or 5 minutes. I've just taken that as a sample of what's in it. One of the voices in it is the voice of Dr. Andrew Wakefield. Already on Twitter, by the way, I have Anita telling me that I shouldn't be calling him Dr. Wakefield because he's no longer a doctor. He was struck off the UK medical register in 2010. Anita, you're correct. He's not allowed to practice. He's barred from practice in the UK. However, he is still a doctor. He did still qualify as a doctor and did still practice as a gastroenterologist for many years. So he is still entitled to call himself a doctor. What others choose to call him is a matter for themselves. But anyway, that's just clarifying that one. In the 90s, Mr. Wakefield, or Dr. Wakefield, claimed to have discovered a connection between autism and the MMR vaccine. Now, as you can imagine, with my own personal circumstances, I've had skin in this game. I've been interested in this for 20 or more years. The film Vaxxed now makes the claim that, in fact, not only was he right, but that the authorities in the US knew he was right. And they knew there was a connection, but they continued to cover it up. And that is pretty much the premise on which Vaxxed is built and produced and directed and put together. Andrew Wakefield, based now in the USA, I spoke to him yesterday about the movie. We pre-recorded it because of time differences and availability and all that. I also spoke to David Robert Grimes. He's a physicist and a cancer researcher. He's an Irishman. He's based at Oxford University in the UK. We've spoken, in fact, to David before on the show. So I'm going to let you hear that discussion now. It goes to a point and then ends. And we'll start with Dr. Andrew Wakefield.
You and I don't know each other very well. You have a son with autism, and I have great shame.
That's the trailer again. Let's run that interview now. This starts, as I said, with Dr. Andrew Wakefield. You're back in the headlines, I think, because of the movie Vaxxed, which we haven't seen in the cinemas yet here in Ireland. It's quite difficult to see a copy of it. Very controversial material. Some people have said we shouldn't see this movie. Why should we see this movie?
Well, because it brings, for the first time in 20 years, it brings the truth to the table. It brings the truth from a senior scientist from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in America, saying that they have investigated the link between vaccines and autism, MMR vaccines specifically, and they have confirmed that there is a very strong statistical association between exposure to this vaccine on schedule, that's 12 to 18 months, and autism risk. And the film is available online now, so you can stream it and you can watch it in Ireland and around the world.
Why do you think there's been such resistance to showing it publicly?
I think that people are terrified. The authorities, the drug companies are terrified of this film. Academics are terrified of it. Firstly, number one, it's impossible to comment on it unless you've seen it. You're speaking, if you haven't seen it, then you're speaking from a position of ignorance, and that's not a good position. I'm not putting you in that bracket because you're simply here to discuss the movie. But it is absolutely essential that people see this film before passing comment.
Well, I'm familiar with your work, Dr. Wakefield, which gives me some start, I guess. I admit I haven't seen it, but David Robert Grimes, who I'll bring in momentarily, has seen it and will be able to analyse it perhaps better than I. But I do remember your work, and I do remember the link that you said was there in 1998. But I also remember the way that was taken apart and dismantled by the various medical authorities, and how you yourself were discredited, and the research was pretty much thrashed over the years. What has changed now that allows you to stand over the film?
Well, the fact is that the research was solid and honest right from the very beginning. What you've witnessed, I'm afraid, is an extensive and extravagant public relations exercise to discredit vaccine safety research, and that's what it was. It wasn't anti-vaccine, it was vaccine safety research, but it offended government policy and it offended pharmaceutical industry profit, and therefore it had to be completely discredited and the messenger destroyed. It's a fact of life. It's just ruthless pragmatism. If that's what you do to my bottom line, that's what I'm going to do to your career. That's what happens in medicine all the time. So the thing about this confession from a senior CDC scientist is it confirms that the parents and we were right all along.
At that point, it might be a good opportunity to bring in David Robert Grimes from Oxford University. David, good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, PJ. How you doing?
Now, you've had an opportunity to listen to Dr. Wakefield and maybe respond. Let's go back to the original paper in 1998. You've read that. You yourself have discounted it. You yourself use it as a lecture tool in your own lectures in university. So start from there.
Yeah, I'd like to start by giving your listeners some background on Mr. Wakefield's claim. Back in 1998, he published a paper alleging a link between vaccination and autism, making this insinuation in the media. Now, despite the lack of reproducible evidence, the story panicked many parents who refused to get their children vaccinated. What happened next is now infamous. Measles, for example, is incredibly virulent and can even be fatal, and each single case typically leads to 12 or to 18 other cases. With falling vaccine uptake, hundreds of children fell ill. In Dublin, we even had a number die. But the claim Wakefield was pushing then and now was shown to be utterly fraudulent, buttressed by falsified data and involving unethical experiments on developmentally impaired children. Frankly, it's borderline unethical. This man continues to get a platform to scaremonger so dangerously.
Well, we're giving him a platform today because the movie's in the news. You have an opportunity. You have seen it.
Absolutely, I have seen it, yes.
And your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I think there is something horrendously hypocritical about the accusations of conspiracy as a way of buttressing Mr. Wakefield's narrative, given that the only person who's committed any conspiracy, and was shown to, was Mr. Wakefield, who falsified data and had undeclared financial interests in the result of that data. So for him to sit here and tell us the entire medical and scientific community is wrong and to present himself as some sort of Galileo-like figure is so intellectually vapid and insulting and dangerous that I simply find it difficult to comprehend it.
Dr. Wakefield, Andrew Wakefield, your response to any of that? The researchers?
There are so many errors, so much hypocrisy, a pre-prepared script read by effectively a mouthpiece for what sounds like a pharmaceutical industry advertisement. It's really, really sad. Firstly,
Mr. Wakefield, I'm a physicist. I am not a pharmaceutical person.
Can you just let me finish? Firstly, the English High Court heard the case against the GMC and completely, utterly threw it out, exonerating my colleague, Professor Walker-Smith, who was funded to appeal. There was nothing unethical about the study. There was no undeclared conflict of interest. This was all known. And what
there certainly was. You dropped your legal case against Brian Deere because of that. Mr. Wakefield, your actions since 1998 have been deplorable. You are in a large part responsible for the fall in vaccination rate, the mass outbreaks of measles that today blight Europe and America. Directly or indirectly, this is your legacy and the blood is on your hands, sir.
The government withdrew the opportunity...
Don't blame the government for your actions, sir.
And that's when measles came back. And if you're going to keep interrupting, then you're depriving the public of the certain knowledge that the CDC have committed.
The public had ample opportunity.
David, you know what you might do, David? Just pause for a moment, David, and let him finish what he's saying, and then I will bring you back and give you adequate time, and I'll ask Dr. Wakefield to let you do that too. Off you go, Andrew Wakefield.
I did not interrupt your guest once during his...
Okay, well, I think we may have dealt with that now. He's going to wait until you finish.
No, but the very point is that his strategy is to simply block people hearing about the truth. This interview is about the worst fraud in the history of medicine committed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in the words of their own senior scientist, who not only designed the study, but if this were a money laundering ring, he would have been the accountant. He had the data, the information, the analysis plans, and he gave them all to us. He admitted to fraud. I have never admitted to fraud because your listeners must realize I have never committed fraud. It was a fix.
Now, I'll let David Robert Dragonson back in.
The British Medical Journal has called you a fraud, Mr. Wakefield. Brian Deere won an Investigative Journalist Award for exposing you as a charlatan of the highest order. Now, the fact you can sit there and laugh, and you will have an adoring audience, but I want to make it really clear to listeners listening to the show that you are not a truth teller, you are not a hero, you are not a martyr, you're not even misguided like the excuse that so many people have. You know full well what you are doing, and you are exploiting people, and ultimately, you are damaging lives. And you can sit there and say it's a big cover-up and a big conspiracy, and you can make that claim all you like, and you know it's intellectually vapid and entirely empty.
David, can I put one question to you? Can I put one question to you, David? If there is genuinely a whistleblower, a senior scientist within CDC, and is there any possibility, do you believe at all, David, that there is some kind of there was a cover-up within CDC? Do you believe that?
Mr. Wakefield, yes. Well, listen to me here. What Mr. Wakefield may not be aware of is that I actually also do research conspiracy theories. And I can tell you straight off the bat that a CDC WHO conspiracy would need at least 25 to 50,000 active collaborators. Now, you'd have to insinuate that 25 to 50,000 doctors, researchers, medics, people who you meet, people who treat you, are actively conspiring, or the other alternative is that Mr. Wakefield's narrative, which has already been shown to be a lie, is a lie. I am much more likely to believe that one person is lying than 50,000 people who work in medicine every day are lying.
Where do you pull that number from? It took 5 people to conspire to produce fraudulent data in this.
The way I pull that number from, Mr. Wakefield, is a paper I published in January on the mathematics of...
Well, you asked him a question, Andrew Wakefield. Let him answer, yeah? Where do you get the numbers from?
I believe the number of the people involved with CCWHO was in a paper that I did earlier on this year when I worked out how many people would have to be involved. So that's available on +1.
Well,
and
that wasn't worth the paper it was written on then, because it took 5 people to conspire to produce this result.
You are claiming a mass conspiracy. You are claiming that worldwide medics and scientists are lying to the public.
No, I'm not.
The much more likely outcome is that
I've
you
never
are.
said that in my life. Absolute nonsense. The conspiracy is...
So you're claiming the CDC are lying?
These are the words of William Thompson, a scientist at the CDC. They're not mine. He said we committed...
PJ, with the greatest respect, this is a waste of time.
No, you're a waste of time. You're a waste of time because you're just setting out to deceive the public based upon rhetoric.
Thank you for your time,
that was
PJ.
Proven wrong a long, long time ago.
And that is where we left it, because I did continue the interview solo with Dr. Wakefield for a few minutes more. But really, there was no more that I could put to him than Dr. David Robert Grimes put to him also. And it ended there. So do you agree? Do you believe what Andrew Wakefield has been saying since 1998 and what he now says, according to this movie, which I confess I haven't seen yet? I'm anxious to see it, very anxious to see it. He now says that the CDC, the Centre for Disease Control, that a senior scientist within that centre now says, yes, there was a conspiracy, we did cover it up. And we did actively cover it up. That's the premise of the new movie. Or do you believe Dr. David Robert Grimes, a physicist and a researcher at Oxford University, who says it's utter rubbish? Do you believe Dr. Nick Flynn, who deals in global vaccines, who says it's nonsense? Makes no sense, and it has never been properly reproduced. Who do you believe? Who do you want to believe? Should this movie be shown? Should we show a movie that makes such disturbing claims as Vaxxed? Or should we not? 1850 715 996. Anita says, Wakefield is a conspiracy theorist, this is on Twitter, who calls anyone who disagrees with him a big pharma shill. He then cries censorship. Well, nothing of that exchange was censored. Nothing of that exchange between the two gentlemen was censored. The bit we cut out was the bit at the end where I just felt it was pointless to continue. Eugene says, oh my God, I can't believe how in denial Andrew Wakefield is. Kevin then says on Twitter, this is why this film must be seen in a controlled way, so as to blow his claims out of the water one by one. Banning it isn't the way to go. By banning it, you're watching something without hearing the other side. I was watching text. I was watching Darby O'Gill and the Little People last week. I always knew it. Leprechauns exist. We're now getting our facts from Hollywood. And another text, I've seen the movie. It's an emotional assault designed to instill fear and doubt into as many people as possible. It contains no proof, just edited clips of a so-called whistleblower, which leaves the viewer simply confused. 1850 715 996. I would particularly like to hear from anyone, I beg your pardon, who supports Andrew Wakefield. Because they are out there. I know they're out there. I have spoken to them. I have engaged with them on Facebook and Twitter. I know them through my own circle, because of having a connection to autism in my own family. I know of people who believe that Dr. Wakefield, Andrew Wakefield, is some kind of messiah. No matter how much discredited he is. So I'm looking for your call. I have lines available at 1850 715 996 of Andrew Wakefield. Maureen, good morning.
Good morning, PJ.
Now, you believe in what Dr. Wakefield has been saying and continues to say.
I certainly do.
Why?
Because I've been following his work since the 1990s. And there was a doctor previous to him that said that a vaccine with 3 live viruses shouldn't be put into children, like measles, mumps and rubella, because you're never going to come out with these 3 of those things at the same time. And if a child has a weak immune system, they're more likely to be vaccine damaged.
Dr. Nick Flynn,
Dr. Flynn, like the rest of the GPs here, does not pass on the manufacturer's information to parents when they ask for their consent to give the child a vaccine.
What is that information?
It gives you all the ingredients, the contraindications, contraindications and the long list of possible side effects, which are exactly the same as they scaremonger about if you get the measles. One of the side effects is encephalitis, which is brain damage. And if you were speaking to Dr. Wakefield for long enough, he would always tell you that he would have also told you that his work has been replicated by several people.
Have you vaccinated your children?
I have, yes. 2 of them didn't get the MMR because it wasn't in vogue at the time when they were the age for it. But I had 2 other children who had it, and one of them got a long-term illness following it called bowel disease, inflammatory bowel disease.
And do you believe that the vaccine gave your child that disease?
Yes, I do.
And on what do you base that belief?
On the research I've done. The child had a difficult birth, which can damage something that goes down into the digestive tract. She also had a lot of trouble feeding as a baby, cow's milk in particular. There's a lot of cattle products in the MMR vaccine, which you'll find out when you get just put into Google SPC, Summary of Product Characteristics. You just put SPC, MMR.
But you're with respect, Maureen, Google will find
and you'll get up the manufacturer's information.
Google will find you anything you want to find.
This is the manufacturer's information.
So take then someone like Dr. David Grimes.
It has the Merck Drug Company on the heading.
Can I take someone like Dr. Grimes, who we spoke to?
Yeah, that's sucking up to the drug companies, the same as the rest of them are doing. But
hold on, they can't all be doing it.
There's a few good doctors, but a hell of a lot of them are hypocrites. They take an oath when they graduate, but it's
no, they don't.
I know. I think in Ireland they don't. But
no, they don't. There's no such thing.
A Hippocratic oath.
It's no such thing. It hasn't been taken for centuries. No doctor swears an oath anywhere.
It goes back to the Greek or something.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, well, people write about it anyway.
Well, it's a bit of an urban myth that they all swear an oath.
Yeah, well, maybe they should do it. Or maybe they should put a hand on a Bible if they've any religion. Then what it means is first do no harm.
Yes, that is the only thing they promise, yeah.
Yeah, that's what the Hippocratic oath is supposed to mean.
Mm-hmm. What about children? What about thousands of children? And I'm trying to balance this as best I can here. And remember, I have an interest here, personal interest.
Why is that?
Because my son has autism.
Your son has autism?
Yes, he does.
I'm sorry to hear that. There was a report came out.
No need to be sorry. It's part of our lives. It doesn't bother us at all.
I know.
But here's my point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make to you is this. What I hear Dr. Wakefield for years saying what he says. And I hear people saying that it's nonsense. And then I hear crazy things like they're all being paid off and they're all being bought off, and like so you immediately intimated.
They're happy and people got compensation for being injured with the MMR. One child in Italy, a lot in the States. They mightn't call it autism, but it's brain damage, but it's linked to the MMR. Also in the UK.
But Dr. Flynn said there are side effects with everything. There are side effects with paracetamol.
You're supposed to be informed. You shouldn't be misled that something is safe when it's not.
So what would you say to someone who has a baby or is about to have a baby and maybe in the next 12 to 18 months will have to make decisions? What would you say to them?
I would say I would never tell anybody not to have a vaccine. I would tell them to do the research and ask your GP, and if he gets ratty with you, walk away from him.
Why would he get ratty with you?
You want the information out of the box, the MMR.
Why are you immediately suggesting that a doctor might get ratty?
Because I've heard many stories of doctors.
I've heard many stories. Have you sat in front of them, though, and had them get ratty with you?
Well, at the time mine were vaccinated, I didn't know all the stuff I know now.
Okay, so hang on a second. I want to bring in Fiona O'Leary, who's wanted to get in on this debate. Because Fiona, you, correct me if I'm wrong, we've talked before, you yourself have a diagnosis of autism.
That's correct. I have Asperger's and I have
Asperger's. And your children have a diagnosis.
Yes.
And do you believe that vaccinations have anything to do with it?
Not at all, no. All my children are fully vaccinated, and I'm 45 in a few weeks' time. I didn't have
read
the
the
MMR
patient information leaflet.
Hold on, let her make her point. Moiraid, let her. I gave you plenty of stage to yourself.
Okay.
Now I'm going to give the same to Fiona. Then you can have a discussion. Fiona, go ahead.
I don't like her slandering Dr. Wakefield.
Wait a minute,
Excuse me, can I
Moiraid.
speak, please?
What I will do is turn you down if you shout. So I'm going to give you both a bit of space, and then you can have a go. So Fiona, please.
Thank you. So I just wanted to just clarify that there's many adults like myself who didn't receive the MMR vaccine. That's just one part of it. Studies have proven this over and over. There's been more than 15, 20 studies, independent of the CDC as well, that there is no connection. There is no correlation between vaccines and autism. I've seen this film. I'm actually probably one of the very few people in Ireland that have seen the film. I watched it recently. This film basically instills fear into as many people as possible, not just in relation to MMR. In the movie, they are chanting, vaccines cause autism. So they're not just focusing on MMR, it's all vaccines. The Vaxxed team have made this statement many times. There is no safe vaccine. We have heard them also say, do not go to pediatricians, they are dangerous. Stay away from them. It exploits autistic people. So what we have in this movie are autistic children and adults, some of them half-dressed, so some of them nearly naked, screaming, rocking, banging, saying, I want to kill you, Daddy. Terrifying society about autism. Oh my goodness, is this autism? They're going to kill us. We are seeing this in this film. We are seeing this with the anti-vax movement, and that's what I'd like to talk about, not the science part like David addressed, but the fact that we are basically used, we are exploited for them to make these false claims. That's what I'd really like to talk to Mr. Wakefield about, actually, how he feels about that. And also the second part is that my children don't want to be called vaccine injured or brain damaged or toxic. It is affecting them psychologically. They have to grow up in Ireland, they have to hopefully get a job, finish school, and that's the kind of labels that are being placed on them today. It's not autism, it's not being autistic. Now they are brain damaged and vaccine injured. How do you think that makes them feel? Living, trying to get by. And on top of that, the whole film itself is just so badly put together. There is no whistleblower in this film. This is what we need to address here. He's not there. There is a mysterious voice floating around the screen with fragmented conversation. It makes no sense whatsoever. There is no evidence here. Wakefield speaks about evidence and proof. There is no proof. The only proof that we really have is that vaccines do not cause autism.
Moiraid, if you want to come back at that stage.
Yeah, there's too much censorship in this country. Like when the UK Daily Mail used to come in here.
Question now straight away. Who's censoring you right now? Who's censoring you right now? I won't be accused of censorship on live radio.
In the printed.
Well, let's deal with the radio show and then let's answer what Fiona brought up.
What was she saying about, you shouldn't be saying that about autistic children? I'm not saying anything about autistic. I think they should get all the help they need from the government here, because they're hand in hand with the drug companies. And we have too many children with autism and other autoimmune illnesses that were unheard of before.
It's not an illness. Autism is not an illness, Mairead. It's a condition, and we don't like to be referred to as being ill. Just to clarify that, it's not an illness.
1 in 65 students now with autism.
Excuse me, it doesn't matter what the stats are. Please do not refer to us as ill.
Do you not
We're
think
not
that's
ill.
a bit over the top?
I'm sorry, but I'm just saying autism is not an illness, it is a condition. And if you refer to autistic children as being ill, I find that really, really offensive.
I didn't say they were. Some of them have very bad bowel problems. The smaller children.
We're not. Everyone is individual on the spectrum.
And the doctor here would
everyone. We can't generalise about autism.
They have to bring them to England to get a colonoscopy back in the 90s.
Well, that's absolutely outrageous. And actually, that to me is a real concern. Actually, PJ, is that autistic children are having unnecessary procedures carried out on them to try and prove this fictitious bowel disease.
Make them better.
It doesn't exist. The bowel disease that
Moiraid, you can't make it better. You can't make it better.
There's a diet you can use that is very helpful.
We're not talking about diets. We're talking about procedures.
Yeah, let me, Fiona, if you wouldn't mind, let me jump in here.
Yes,
let me jump in. This is very, very important to me personally and a lot of people. Moiraid, please do something that a lot of people on your side of the argument don't do. Stop conflating and plaiting together the dietary issue and the vaccine. They have
I know someone that used it and it's
scientific link.
been very helpful.
I have used the diet on my son and it helped. But he was also vaccinated.
It's not going to cure it, but it will help the bowel.
Yes, I know. Don't lecture me about the diet. I've helped people introduce their children to that diet. So please.
Oh, that's good.
And it's being researched now properly, proved by proper science in UCC. It's been proven that there's something in that dietary argument. But please stop conflating it with vaccine. Can we stop doing that?
I'm going on the patient information leaflet that the manufacturer puts out, that the HSC neglects to give parents for any vaccine, never mind the MMR.
That's not correct, actually. If you want
It
to
is
see
correct.
the leaflet, you can
It
see
is
it. You can
correct.
ask your doctor. They will show you the leaflet.
It is correct.
No. I have seen the leaflet. I have to make that point. My doctor has been
It's
very
not
supportive.
given to any parent when they go
No,
into their
that's not
doctor.
true. I've already said
It
that
is
to you.
true.
She's
I've
seen
seen
it,
the
Mary.
leaflet. I'm not lying, am I? I've seen the leaflet, PJ. My doctor
Oh,
has
yeah,
been
you
very
can see it,
supportive.
but are you in the doctor's office? Watch what's going on.
Obviously, if my child's being
That doctor
vaccinated, I'm
denied
with
there
my
was that
child at that
it was
moment. Of course I am.
That Dr. Nick said the vaccine was 100% safe. That's a lie. It's not 100% safe for everybody.
Actually, he didn't. What he
didn't
said
say
was
that,
there are,
no.
in his view, the vaccines that he gives out.
Yeah, well, doctors, when they're training, don't get enough information about vaccine, and that's well known.
What's well
When they're
known?
doing- when they're
Who
doing that
told you
7 years.
that?
It's out there.
And by the way, are you
I mean, it's in their best
accusing
interest not to know.
Moraid? I need to distance you from something. If you're accusing Dr. Nick Flynn of telling an untruth on this radio program, then you are wrong.
If you listen back, did he not say that it was in his
No, he didn't
view,
say that.
more or less
More or less now, you see?
100% safe? Well, maybe
You're
he
being
should go back and do
You're
some
being
research.
defamatory. You're being defamatory if you're accusing
Well, I
him of lying.
apologise, but he should go back and do some research and read the patient
Now you're being
information.
patronising as well.
There's too much
I've been
conspiracy
studying
talk,
vaccines
PJ.
for a
That's the
long
problem.
time, and I'm not an idiot. They
Well,
all have
did
side
anyone
effects.
did
but they're not
anybody?
giving you-
Yeah, he
they're not
actually
giving you
said that.
information.
He said there are side effects. There can be side effects in
Yes,
limited
but
cases.
if you buy a packet of tablets in Tesco, you get a patient information leaflet in the box.
Yes, you do.
So it's at your discretion whether you take that or not if you read it.
Well, I
But
did
you
read
don't
the
get that
patient-
chance with a vaccine. You're not
You do.
informed.
That
Let
is not
Fiona
true.
come back on that one now.
No, you do, and I've seen that leaflet, and I want to make that clear. If you want to read the information, it's available for you. It's up to the parent to open their mouth and ask the doctor to see that leaflet. As a parent,
Somebody
I've
with
always done that with everything
Young mothers
that my children
don't
had.
know about this unless they're told.
Well, you need to, it's pretty normal if you take your child for a vaccination to talk to your GP and say what's going on, and they will be very generous, and they will show you that
Yeah,
leaflet
they give you
if
the
want.
HSE's version.
Now, Moraid.
Version. My goodness, they're all the same. You see, this is a conspiracy thing, Murray, that's coming through you right now. You're saying that Big Pharma, are out to get us all. It's really crazy, and this is what I just want to make a point about. Anytime we question this anti-vax movement, this is what we are basically tarred as, a farmer's
I got
field.
my children vaccinated.
I've
I'm
been
not
called a
anti-vax.
farmer whore,
And
which
that's
is
a form of
hilarious.
bullying, Fiona.
I
Don't
don't-
bully me. I'm well able for
I'm
you.
not bullying. I'm not bullying anyone.
I'm not an
Excuse me.
anti-vaxxer. I'm an informed
I'm not calling
parent.
you an anti-vax. I said the anti-vax movement in general. There is a movement out there, and it needs to be, we can speak
Maybe you
about
should
that.
call them informed parents. That's what they are.
Informed parents. Well, that's fine. That's fine. Use that title. I don't mind, Marie. Use whatever you wish, but I'm perfectly
well, mine
right
is
to...
called Irish Vaccine Informed Parents.
Oh, really? Well, that's nice. That's great. Look,
And would
it's
you
great to be
consider
informed.
Moraid? Would you consider Fiona to be uninformed?
I don't know what her angle
Would
is.
you consider me to be uninformed?
Well, I'd say I'm more informed than both of you because I've studied vaccines for the last 16 years.
What university did you attend?
Is it? Yeah,
And there was a doctor.
What university did you attend?
I was on TV3. You don't
What
have
university
to be,
did
you
you
don't have to
attend?
be a rocket scientist to read a leaflet or to do some.
So you read a leaflet?
No, you look up the ingredients and then you research the side effects the ingredients cause, and it's all there. There was a doctor up in Dundalk. I was on TV3 with her way back. She's since deceased, and she said parents are not given enough information, and she used to get threatening letters from certain people.
Lady, I need to take a break at this stage because I'm over time at my commercials, but I'll leave you both on the line. Moraid Hilliard and Fiona O'Leary. We will come back to this. 1850 715 996. Kevin said, yes, do the research. Just don't do it on elvislives.com. But Teresa says who's to say Andrew isn't telling the truth and that the World Health Organization is lying. They're all about money, as too are the pharmaceuticals. He has nothing to gain, but they have a lot to lose. People react differently to medicine and vaccines. What's good for one person isn't good for another. You're correct in that statement, Teresa. People do react. They do react. 1850 715 996. Reactions are one thing. Deliberate cover-ups are another. Eugene says, I like Fiona, precisely the sort of person society needs to drive it forward. More calls after this.
It's Cork's 96 FM.
I have David and Jackie waiting on the line. I'm going to give Maureen and Fiona just literally 30 seconds each to sum up their argument, and then we will move on. Maureen, first of all, as a supporter of Dr. Wakefield, your view on the film?
I haven't seen the film, but I hope it comes to Ireland because might open people's eyes. That if the film's censorship board allows it in, like his book was, Dr. Wakefield's book wasn't allowed in Eason's, and you can get it on Amazon. It's called Callous Disregard, which chronicles everything that happened back from the 90s when the chief medical officer in the UK wouldn't listen to what he was telling him about people bringing autistic children with terrible bowel problems.
So you're hoping that people will see the movie and that it will open. I'll leave you with that
and
one.
do their own research.
Okay.
And ask their doctor for the insert in the box with the vaccine, not the HSE's leaflet.
Okay, fair point. Maureen, very quickly, Fiona, let you finish before I move on to David.
Yeah, I mean, the film is, in my opinion, a dangerous movie. It's up to people can see it around the internet, so people can see it. There's no censorship. I just want to clarify that. The big concern for me, I suppose, campaigning against these quack cures, as you know, PJ, there's many of them out there. They would not exist, all these quack biomedical treatments, only for Wakefield and his rhetoric, because parents are being told their children are vaccine damaged and they can recover them. So they're giving them toxic bleach products. They're giving them unregulated blood products. Children
which
are suffering.
Which we've spoken about before,
yes.
and maybe
and
not. Today isn't the day for it, but
yeah, I know, but it's married to this issue. This would not exist if it wasn't for this crazy rhetoric that is untrue and dangerous. And children are dying. 40 children died in Asia recently from measles. Measles kills. These viruses, these diseases are deadly, and we need to protect our children.
Okay.
Vaccines don't cause autism.
Okay, Fiona, I'll leave you with that one. Thank you. 1850 715 996. I suppose people will accuse me of being biased, have a personal connection. I do not believe in the connection that Andrew Wakefield has purported to say is there for 20 years. I do not believe it. I have done extensive reading myself, and I don't believe it. I read science. I don't read Google. I read science, and I don't believe it. I've never seen it reliably recreated, his research. David, good morning. Now, David's in Galway and has contacted the show. How are you? Hello, David. I'll leave him back to you there, guys. I think he's gone from us. But Jackie, just leave it. 1850 715 996 is the number. With trying him back there, I had some confusion over the phone lines. I'll go to Anna Callan, because Anna's with a group called Regret. And we discussed this vaccine on the show a couple of months ago, HPV. And in fact, David Robert Grimes was also part of that discussion. Anna, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Now, you're pointing not to MMR and autism, but to HPV, which is... Remind me again exactly what that's for.
The HPV vaccine is effectively an STI vaccination.
Oh, it's the one for cervical cancer.
Well, it vaccinates against 4 out of more than 100 strains that may or may not lead to cervical cancer. And it's a long development of this particular cancer, in 20 to 30 years before these 4 strains, or 2 out of them, 2 are for genital warts and 2 are for cancer.
Yeah. And you're looking for an investigation. Why?
Well, we represent 380 girls now in the Regret group who are all perfectly healthy leading up to the HPV vaccination in first year secondary school. We were presented with a leaflet from the HSE which told us that this vaccine could lead to some on-the-day reactions, sore arm, a little bit of dizziness, and that it could be treated with ibuprofen or paracetamol. But there is, in fact, an information leaflet from the manufacturer which outlines 25 some very serious potential possible side effects. And now we have a situation where these girls are displaying symptoms that are also listed in this leaflet. So these girls, 90% of them cannot complete their second level education. Many are housebound. They've lost out on their formative years.
Do you know someone?
My own daughter is actually 18 now.
Right.
And she has been severely affected. I'm not saying severely affected by the vaccine, but been very sick following the third shot of this vaccine.
And what are you hoping to get investigated, and who do you want to investigate it?
Yeah, I think when you have a group of, we know that, personally, I'm, when I say pro and anti-vax, I think they're a little bit unfortunate. I think we're all, as parents, want safe vaccinations. I have 2 autistic children as well. 2 boys on the autistic spectrum. All my children are fully vaccinated.
Do you believe the vaccines cause their autism?
I don't. I think I don't have a view on that. I think it's very important that we listen to both. As a parent of an autistic child, I think you want to learn as much as possible.
Indeed you do.
Of all possibilities. And I think movies like Vaxxed, I've only just seen the trailer. I don't see why movies should not be shown, that we can learn about any possible, information, links, make up our own minds.
So you'd support its release?
I think I support it as much as I'd support a movie about how Kennedy died, and all different aspects of that. I think there is freedom of speech, and we should be allowed to see all sides of every story.
Okay. I've got Jackie and I've got David back at it. Yep.
The difference there is that I suppose autism is not a listed side effect on the MMR leaflet.
Do you think it should be?
No, I don't have not unless it's been proven, but I suppose in the HPV vaccine leaflet there are 25 side effects listed, and now we have a group of a very large group, 1 in 500 if you base these girls on the 200,000 vaccinated, that have all these symptoms that are also listed, and that happened in a very close time frame to the vaccine. So I think that merits an investigation, and they obviously need help. We as parents need help because we've been struggling along for years trying to fix our children.
I actually spoke to another couple of parents all right about that after TV3 published a broadcast documentary on it. Listen, Anna, I want to get to other calls, but I do wish you and your daughter well, and we will follow that story with some interest because I know that a lot of people want the HPV vaccine investigated, even though people like David Robert Grimes and others say it is perfectly safe. 1857-15996. Now back to Galway. And David, good morning.
Hello, PJ, can you hear me?
I can quite clearly, sir. I don't know what happened the last time with your back.
I'm not sure. I think the leprechauns got into my phone or something.
In relation to Dr. Andrew Wakefield, the Vaxxed movie, autism, etc., should we see this film? Do you give it any credibility?
I haven't seen the film, but I've seen plenty of videos and statements by people on the Vax team. They have a tour of America at the moment on a thing called the Vax Bus, where they're visiting different parts of America. So they've had plenty of propaganda out there, plenty of information about this film. I've heard enough from other people about this film to convince me this is just a propaganda exercise for the anti-vaccination movement. It's not simply a movie. It's not just it's not.
Well, they would say, and in fact, Andrew Wakefield said to me, this is not anti-vaccine. This is about promoting safe vaccines.
Well, it depends on who you listen to, because if you look at some of the videos, and a lot of them are available online and have been posted, shared online. In fact, the people like myself and Fiona who are campaigning against the Vaxxed have posted some of these videos, so that proves that we're not censoring these people at all. We're actually sharing the information in order to get our point across. But the point is, if you look at Polly Tommy, who's one of who's the head of a charity called Autism Trust in the UK, she's one of the people on the Vax bus. She's one of the main people involved in this film with Andrew Wakefield, and she has clearly said that she doesn't trust vaccines. And she's also made a number of other statements, but her line has been anti-vaccine the whole time.
Your son has autism, I understand, Dave.
My son is autistic, that's correct, yes.
Do you believe that the vaccine, is he vaccinated?
Absolutely, yes.
And do you believe there's any connection?
No, none whatsoever. I mean, this is complete diversion. Autistic people have been around for a lot longer than vaccines, and huge strides had been made in understanding autism before this whole argument came online. A scientist in the UK called Lorna Wing had succeeded in broadening the definition of autism to include far more people than had previously been included. People who had been institutionalised in the past, people who had been written off as retarded, a word that isn't used anymore, people who had been diagnosed with things like childhood schizophrenia. There was a complete denial of the existence of autistic adults before all this started. And improvements had been made in the diagnosis, which naturally enough resulted in a significant increase in diagnosis of autism. And this has now been treated as an epidemic by a minority of people like Andrew Wakefield, who are whipping up this whole hysteria about there being an epidemic, when in fact what really has happened... sorry, can you still hear me there?
I can, quite clearly.
Yeah, sorry, there was just a beep there.
I'm not interrupting because I'm fascinated by what you're saying.
Okay, not to worry. More people have been diagnosed because the criteria have been widened, so that more people... And Lorna Wing, when she widened the criteria, she was deliberately trying to do so to ensure that more people got help and support that they need to be able to live independent lives. And to contribute to society. And
now we know what it is, and now we know what we're looking for. We can find it more easily. David, I want to get to Jackie and hopefully Breda before 11, but I do thank you for your call from Galway, 1850 715 996. Jackie is a mum of two, I understand. Hi, Jackie. Your children are unvaccinated.
Unvaccinated.
Why?
I just started studying this subject when I got pregnant. I have a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and only just came across this subject properly. I trained as a midwife, and so would have been fully vaccinated myself, all the extra vaccinations over working in a hospital, and then, oh great, I have 2 kids here, so if I have to run, I have to run
That's
as well.
Fine.
But my main point is, hang on now, 1 second. My main point is that when people see the movie, I haven't seen it either myself. Oh, God.
It's okay, drive on, they're not bothering us.
1 second. That it's not just don't get vaccinated and go along and do everything else kind of a thing. Like, when I started learning about it, it was... Hang on 1 second.
Okay, I do have one question to ask you, and I know your time is short because of this, but Joanne wants to know if one or other of your children get measles, or if they infect another child with low immunity who could suffer serious consequences, would you still stand over your decision not to vaccinate them?
See, the main point is that it's not the vaccinations that protect against the diseases. Hang on 1 second. It's not the vaccinations that are protecting, it's the kids' immune system. So 1 second now, he's okay. It's the kids' immune system, you see. So this is why it's everything else, I think, that's affecting that was my first port of call. When I first found out that there was anything at all weird about...
What if they get measles? Because they're not vaccinated. They could die. An adult could. When your children grow up and become adults, measles can kill an adult. This is recorded. Medically recorded.
Yeah, but the same amount that they could, that the vaccinated kids could get it, because it's pretty much not the vaccination that's protecting you. It's your barrier to the disease in the first place.
But the vaccination gives you the barrier artificially.
But
it helps your system to build it up.
But naturally you'd have all these barriers. You'd be breathing in the disease, and it would go through all these... the vaccination.
So you believe there's natural immunity out there as it is. Listen, I'm going to let you go because you've more important things on your mind than our radio show right now. But I do thank you for your call, Jackie. Thanks. 1850 715 996. 2 kids not vaccinated, and she says that's fine. She's perfectly happy with this. After the news, by the way, as part of the open line, card scamming. Although we would take calls on this as well, but card scamming. You know, this whole contactless payment thing now. There are scamming. There's scamming going on, and we'll talk about that in open line. Very quickly, I want to go to... I will try and get to Breda before 11, and if I don't get finished with her, I'll bring her back. Breda, just before we go to the news, your son was born in 1984, yeah?
That's correct, and at the time, you get the 3-in-1 vaccine for your child. Now, at the time, it was going around that if both parents suffered from severe convulsions as a child, it is not recommended for your child to be given the 3-in-1 vaccine because it can result in the child having an internal convulsion in the brain that could leave the child brain damaged or die.
So do you believe vaccines are dangerous?
Yes. And
some or all of them?
Pardon?
Some or all of them?
Well, the only one that I kind of would be wary about is the one for the whooping cough.
The MMR.
Because a friend of ours got married and he was adopted and he never knew he had convulsions as a child, and they had a child and the child got the 3-in-1 vaccine. The child got an internal convulsion as a result of it and died.
I suppose these things can happen, unfortunately. Breda, thank you. You can't win an argument with people in the anti-vaccine movement because they start shouting at you and calling you a shill and all that. Anita's in Tipperary. Hi, Anita.
Hi, PJ. How are you?
Good. You were listening to our discussion earlier on vaccines and Vaxxed and Andrew Wakefield and the whole... People saying we shouldn't be discussing the film. I think it's important that we do actually discuss it, but your own take on it is what?
Well, I'm not in favour of giving Andrew Wakefield any publicity or any platform at all, to be honest, because he has created so much fear amongst parents for the last more than 20 years, and I think he has a huge amount to answer for. Basically, I would be very familiar with a lot of the anti-vaccine groups here in Ireland and how they work and how they manipulate debates, and he is the messiah for them. He is, their guru. They look to him for everything. And as I had said there on a tweet earlier, people may not be aware of it, but he was actually in 2010 struck off the UK Medical Register. There was a 2-year investigation into the claims that he had made and some of his practices, and he was actually struck off.
He subsequently argues, though, and it is, you can check it out, his colleague was reinstated after a High Court case. So he's on the back of that. Then he's saying he was wrongly struck off.
Yeah, you see, this is how he manipulates things to make himself be the victim, as if, and that there's a conspiracy against him personally. I actually think it's very interesting as well that he talks about other people being big pharma shills, and whoever disagrees with him, and it's something that the entire global anti-vaccine brigade campaigners will do, and it doesn't matter who you are. If you disagree with them, because they don't actually have any solid, valid facts to bring to a debate, so what they do is turn it all around and say that you are part of the conspiracy, that you are a big pharma shill, that you are getting paid by these, whoever, the Illuminati or whoever it is that's in our government, that are deliberately damaging our children.
But Anita, that is why we as a team on this show decide that we will discuss it and we will bring on Andrew Wakefield so that we can show we're in nobody's pocket.
Oh, I'm not blaming you. What I'm saying is this is the way that Andrew Wakefield and the anti-vaccine movement are. It's very difficult to have an actual one-to-one, proper, informed debate, because no matter what you say, no matter what information you bring, you have the facts, you're bringing them to the table, you have everything to back up the claims that you make, from science, from medicine. You have it all there. No matter what you present, it will be turned around and you are told that you personally are part of the conspiracy. I've had said to me myself that I'm, somebody who is being paid. If only I was being paid to come on something like this and talk to you about it. But this is how it's done, and the irony about it is the only person that's actually making money out of it is Andrew Wakefield. He is somebody who is not allowed to practice anymore in the UK. His licence is taken away from him. He is making money from travelling around the world telling people that vaccines are unsafe. and he himself directed that film, and he is making money out of it. So anyone in this who's the shill, it's Andrew Wakefield himself, because he is the one who is actually making money out of it. And with regards to the actual anti-vaccine movement, it feeds down along the line. People will come on and they'll say, I'm not anti-vaccine, but, and then go on to say, I was on Google, I did my research, I did this, I did that. 9 times out of 10, what they are looking at on Google is misinformation that has no credible background to where it came from. It's just link after link after link to conspiracy theory websites that again will all go back to the myths that Andrew Wakefield himself brought out 20 odd years ago. So this is how it works on a global scale. It's not unique to Ireland, it's not unique to the UK, it's not unique to America. It is a global anti-vaccine movement that didn't just originate with Andrew Wakefield, but he certainly is a driving force behind it. Him, and there's a few more people who themselves are making an awful lot of money out of putting children's lives at risk. And that's the bottom line.
Anita, the clock has caught me because I need to get one more call before we finish, but thank you for yours. 1850